This is Ivy Unleashed, a Gold Ivy production.
Welcome back to Ivy Unleashed. I'm the only girl. So growing up, the first two girlfriends. And Julie. Oh my God.
Really?
Yeah, they were so excited. At the time, it really all these dances. And I thought, and fast forward to welcome to Ivy Unleashed.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me.
I'm already getting teary-eyed. It's like this episode this morning, we're getting into some really heavy things. It has been through so much, and it's been an honor to know you and watch you somehow thrive and survive. And such a joyful person, and I'm so honored that you're here. You are staying connected with us. Story that could have torn us apart or so married Brooke's cousin, Jason. We want to get into your story about your love life, how you met, about Jason, about you.
Well, it's funny because Jason was not a dancer, but dance is such a huge part of how we met and just how we both ended up in LA. But we met through the UW dance team. I joined it my sophomore year in college, and Jason was a school year older than me, and he was really good friends with a bunch of the girls on the team. And so I met him originally through them. Like, we were out one night, and I just remember thinking like, oh, this guy's really cute. And then I was like, shut up, Julie, like, blah, 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 you know. But then we would run into each other like out and about. And it was finally one night we were out with like all the dance moms who adored Jason and apparently also liked me. And, you know, one of them to me was like, hey, what about Jason? You know, and then to Jason, we're like, hey, what about Julie? And the rest is history. So, but that's how we met, and we started dating in college. And it was just like a really easy relationship. Like, it just clicked and worked, and we didn't have to like think about it. You know, it was just like we loved being with each other kind of from day one. And it was just, it like happened very naturally. Yeah, fast forward to he graduated college. I still had a year left. I graduated. He stayed in Madison, was thinking about doing law school. So he took a gap year and was like an intern at a law firm. I graduated. He was about to start law school. And then I got into a dance program in LA that I didn't intend on getting into. I like auditioned with a friend for fun, and it was like, oops, you made it. And so all of a sudden it was like he was embarking on a 3-year law school journey in Milwaukee at Marquette, and I was moving across the country to LA to start a dance program. We did long distance. And this was before FaceTime and before like all the things that are really helpful these days in distance relationships. This is so embarrassing.
Who have you danced with, or what shows, movies have you been a part of?
Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm blushing. I do not excel at this part of my life. We were just talking about this. So like my first job after this program that I was in was dancing with Rihanna at the MTV VMAs. But I've danced with a few artists. I've danced with Kelly Clarkson and Katy Perry and I think a few other people. But I mostly now work in like TV, film, and commercial. So I guess more recently, like I've done several episodes of the show Physical on Apple TV and a show called Welcome to Chippendales, which is super fun. I was in La La Land. And Ted 2. I don't know. I've been in stuff. I get really uncomfortable talking about this.
It's so funny, it's just like who you are. You're supposed to be like a but it's a big deal to kind of trial for something and then you end up in a movie.
Yeah, I mean, it was like such a lesson in just like trying things because I was like my friend's wingman, and I just like went for fun to take class. And then I ended up getting in this program that she didn't. But, but you guys know her. She's amazing. I'm going to just like, she was my wedding photographer, Lexia Frank. She's fantastic. If anybody needs a photographer, she's like it. She's incredible. So like the world definitely worked out, for both of us in the ways that it needed to. And she's actually still dancing and for enjoyment and whatever. I'm so inspired by her always, and grateful because she was the one that was like, just come with me. It'll be fun, So I guess like the lesson out of that is like, just try things because you literally never know what's going to happen. And sometimes we are the people that like get in the way of ourselves the most, like we cut ourselves from the gig before we even have the chance to audition for it. I mean, it just required a lot of communication and just making sure we're on the same page and a lot of flights back and forth. We were really lucky that the summer between his second and third year, he came out to LA and lived with me and my roommates. I think at that time with Jason in the apartment, there were 6 of us in a 3-bedroom. So it was a full house. Oh yeah. So we were just, we had a good time, but it was great because it gave him an opportunity to become part of my world out there. Like everyone had heard about Jason and they would see him when he visited or whatever, but like to have him for that summer really like immersed him into the gang, and it made him realize like, oh, I really love LA. Like I could see myself living here. And it was just at that point in our relationship, like we needed that. Like we needed to be together. It was just like getting really hard. So that to me was like, it was just such a breath of fresh air. So he finishes up law school, he graduates, he moves out to LA. This is now summer of 2010. And he's studying for the California bar exam, which is really hard. And he's starting to get like headaches and kind of dizzy. And we thought like, oh, you're really stressed and all of this. And then it's not going away. And so he saw a neurologist. So he was diagnosed with vertigo. It made sense, but it continued to get worse. And he didn't find out until November, the bar results, found out he passed, which is incredible to like, yeah, he's so smart. But things were getting worse and worse and worse. And finally, it was right after Christmas that year, like he fell and he called his neurologist and was like, I'm either going to the ER right now or I need you to get me in for an MRI. And so he got in for an MRI, came home, got a call from the neurologist saying, hey, they found a mass. You need to go to Cedars to the ER right now. They know you're coming. We're thinking you have a mass in your ear because vertigo is all about like the fluid in your ear and whatnot. So we're like, oh my God, you have like, what? I don't know. We did not. Anyways, go to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. The nurse is checking us into the room when we finally get back in the room. And she's like, so how long have you known about the brain tumor? And you're like, oh, okay. The mass is in the brain. And so that was just like, that catapulted us into a whole journey of, surgeries, chemo, radiation, all of that stuff. So his tumor was in his cerebellum. It was the size of a lemon. It was originally diagnosed as an astrocytoma, which is like a grade like 3 or 4. Yeah, he immediately had 2 surgeries and then started chemo right away. He was in the ICU and then he was transferred to the regular hospital and then like a rehab, like an inpatient rehab. So he was in the hospital for a month. And that meant I was in the hospital for a month because I didn't want to leave his side. I would go do things here and there, but I would stay with him every night. And yeah, he did like a year of treatment. You do like, gosh, it feels like forever ago. So I'm like, what do? You do like 30 days consecutively, I believe, of chemo in conjunction with radiation. And then you go on like a monthly chemo, like a birth control. But it's not. But yeah, that's like standard of care for brain tumors. And it worked. Like he was cancer free for 5 years. And during that time we got married and we had a lot of adventures, and we kind of settled back into like our new normal. And we're very hopeful that like, okay, this was it, right? Like, I mean, it could come back, but also like, let's have this be it. This is the story, you know? And then in spring of 2016, went in for a routine MRI. He had been feeling fine. We didn't expect anything. We thought it was going to be one of those visits where we go in, chit chat with the doctor, and then we go grab lunch. And, it was not. So the tumor had come back. So that began the journey of sort of the recurring treatments. It now had transformed into a GBM, a glioblastoma multiforme, which is not the kind of brain tumor you want. That is typically a death sentence. He did, yeah. So it's like so again, it was on his cerebellum, so that controls a lot of your coordination. So he had to relearn to like walk, to speak. His voice and intonation were altered a lot. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, he used to be like such a fast reader, and it like really slowed him down because for a while he had to like train his eyes to work together again. And he was such a rock star. Like he did all the things, and like he improved so much, you know, like he really took something that could have been debilitating to someone else and like did the very best that he could and like excelled. Mhm. Yeah. It was interesting because like this was our normal. So like to us talking about brain cancer or whatever, like that was normal. And it is like dropping a bomb on other people. And sometimes you don't want to bring that up at a dinner party, you know, because then people look at you like, oh my God, or they feel bad or whatever. Now you're taking care of them. And, you know, but then also it felt like you're lying if you don't bring it up, because it's also like it's what's going on and like what we're dealing with, and that is why he speaks the way he does and whatnot. So it was always kind of like toeing this line of like, how much do I disclose and how do I say it? And like, you know, Jason and I both used humor a lot, you know, like we obviously were taking the situation very seriously. And I want to say like anytime I'm laughing now, it's not because like, oh, so funny. It's just like that at a certain point, like that's like just how you deal with it, you know, for us at least. But also, not a dumb question. Because, like, at first, like, he would have, like, a beer here, there, whatever. But I remember we went to the Rose Bowl one year when the Badgers were in the Rose Bowl. And I think he had, like, one drink, maybe, you know. And we were taking, like, the public transit back. And an officer was like, whoa, buddy. Like, you know, and he just turned and he was like, I have brain cancer. Like, and the officer was like, oh, like, you know, like, we had a few incidents. Like I remember at a Twins game too, some like he was just gonna have a beer and the guy that was selling, he was like, I don't know, buddy, you know, like trying to cut him off, and he was like, no, and like, you know, showed him his scar, and the bartender felt terrible. But again, it's like this is just like this is our normal, you know? So yeah, it did like it altered what we could do, you know, like we couldn't go on long hikes, or like, you know, we used to do like a lot more, you know, physical activity, and we could do an altered version of that. You know, it was just something you always had to account for. Like, oh, we're going to the airport. There's going to be a lot of walking. Like, we have to get there earlier, or like, yeah, you adjust. I wish I had gotten a therapist much earlier. I finally, in, I think it was February of 2020, 2020, started seeing a therapist. Now, granted, Jason and I found a really amazing cancer support group in LA, and they had a brain tumor specific group. And so it was really cool because patients and caregivers went together. And for a while, it was the whole 2 hours was everyone together. And then they started doing breakout groups. So like the first hour was patients and caregivers. And then the second one, they split off. So like patients could have their space and caregivers could have their space. And because brain tumors affect people in such different ways, sometimes like the caregiver would stay with the patient if they weren't verbal anymore or whatever. And that's a silver lining of what happened with Jason is like he had this nasty tumor, but it never changed who he was. And I feel so grateful for that. And I'm sure that he would too, because it's like we watched other people change, you know, and that's so hard for them and so hard for their partner. And I feel really lucky that like he was himself up until the very end. Like, sure, maybe he couldn't speak as well or move as well or whatever, but like those witty comments, like they still came out, you know, and like he was just always him. Like that never changed. Give it to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we had been together for probably 7 years because we were just dating when he was diagnosed, and we were fine with that. Like we weren't in any rush to do any, like we knew what our commitment to each other was, and like that was great. And we're like, we're just going to take this as it comes. And then when you get something like a diagnosis like that, it kind of made us be like, why aren't we married? Like we love each other. Like we want to be with each other. Like it's silly we're not married. Also, when you're not married, it's really hard to call insurance companies. And that's a whole other part of like handling things when someone's sick. But it just like, it really, I think it brings you into the present moment, and it makes you realize like, you know, we want to be married to each other. So let's do it. And I was really surprised. Like when he proposed to me, he proposed at the Hollywood Bowl, which is like such an iconic venue in LA. And I had no idea. Like I was totally surprised but ecstatic, because I thought that he wanted to do it when he was like, he was in speech therapy a lot. And like, he made it seem like, oh, I don't want to get married or propose until I can like really speak well or whatever. And I think he got to a point where he was like, this might be my new normal, like, what am I waiting for? Like, let's just do it. And I think that all circles back to like, stop, like, don't wait around for things, if it feels right. And if this is what you want, then like, go for it, do it. And I'm so glad we did. And there was never any question that I wanted to marry him, and I wanted to be his wife, and I wanted to have a life together, however that was going to look. Like nothing was going to, change that. But it does, I think it does add like a gravity to your vows and everything, when I think we were like very optimistic and like, you know what, maybe we're going to be like, he's going to be the one that this doesn't come back, like he's going to beat this, and like, it's a one and done kind of thing. And so I think it was, it's partly that, but it's partly like, even if it comes back, like we want to be together. And I don't know. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. Then the first recurrence was in 2016, did a bunch of treatment, did a clinical trial, and I think that helped. His next recurrence wasn't for 2 years in 2018. And then it's like, then they started happening closer together. And then you start to run out of treatment options. And then your doctor, who was the best, I mean, he had the best neuro-oncologist, like so talented, but also so cool. And like we became friends with, I like miss him now, you know? But you know, when he's always like, okay, well, we got another trick in our pocket, you know? And then when it starts to be like, how's your quality of life? Then you start to know like, okay, like, this is like getting real now, you know? But he always wanted to keep fighting. And I think part of that was like, he did have a lot to live for. Like we had a great relationship, but like also he had a great life, you know, like he has an amazing family. You guys are a part of that, you know, like he had a great community of people. Like he was still finding joy in life. And so it gave him a reason to want to keep going. And I'm so grateful for that because, you know, you don't want your partner to stop fighting, even though there is a point where you have to just lay down and be like, all right, that's all I can do. And I did my best. And here we are now. And those are really hard decisions to make. And they're very personal and people choose them in different ways. And I've seen people fight for so long when you're like, oh, maybe they shouldn't have kept doing treatment or something. And then I've seen people, you know, who are like, no, I don't want to do any more surgeries or whatever. And like, you have to respect people's choices because it's so personal. But I feel really grateful that he was willing to fight for so long because we had some really great times together, even within like the really hard times. And I don't think we would have had those if he wasn't like so gung-ho about being like, I'm going to beat this or I'm going to do my best or like, why not me? Like, why can't I be the one that lives longer or whatever? And I think some of it was just like, you know, we were trying to just be blissfully ignorant and like, let's not think about that. Let's, you know, let's focus on the here and the now and like, oh, this coffee's really good. And like, should we get a treat? Like, so I don't know. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. I mean, people are always like, well, you have to take care of yourself and you can't pour from an empty cup. And they're absolutely right. But it is so hard to prioritize yourself when you see somebody else that you love that like needs so much, you know? But Jason was always so supportive of me. I feel like we really made a good team because he lifted me up as much as I cared for him. You know, like I'm definitely the more outwardly emotional of the two of us. So like I'm the crier, you know, like I think I saw him cry twice in his life. Once when his grandpa died and once when we saw the movie Up. Yeah. And especially now in retrospect, I'm like, oh my God, like, you know, it really gets you. But he was, you know, that's just like not how he expresses emotion. And that's how I do. And I feel like he did a really good job of staying present and staying positive and pragmatic, you know, like, okay, well, this is what we do. Like, what do we do? This is what we do. We do this and this and this, you know. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. When he was like the final stretch of him being in the hospital was during COVID. So I was barely able to even be there. And like I think he was maybe like, he might have been on the ventilator at that time. So like he can't talk, but he's like trying to write. And he's like, at this point, like he had his final surgery and we were going to try a little bit of radiation just to buy time, you know? And he was literally on a ventilator in the hospital writing radiation ? Like, when am I going to start this? And it's like, he still wanted, you know, he was still like, I got to get out of here. I got to do the next thing. Staying present as much as possible. Like you're kind of forced to, because if you think further down the road, it gets really scary. You know, like I don't want to think of my life without him, you know? And so then inherently I'm like, okay, well, let's not think of the life without, let's think of like where we are right now, you know? But then at the same time, we have these discussions all the time of like, how do you plan for the future while staying in the present? it's really hard, you know? And so much of society is set up to be like, what's next? And we got to do this and we got to save for this and that. And, but then also everyone's saying like, stay in the present moment and like, you know, live your life. And it's really hard to like do both of those things at the same time. But I think for me personally, not looking too far in the future, maybe a little bit, because you got to plan some things and having like fun things to plan. We were so lucky to have like weddings to go to and family and friends to go visit all over the world. And those types of things always gave us something to look forward to. It was hard, but I feel like, but at the same time, like, I think we always felt so supported and we felt like we were a team. And so like, okay, well, whatever we have to do, like, we'll just do it together. Like, we'll face that together. And I feel really lucky that I had that and lucky that Jason had that, because not everybody gets that. You know, a lot of people go through hard things by themselves. And yeah. 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 It was really hard for a while. Like, I really struggled with like, what ifs, like, what if I could have just been there to like advocate for him or whatever? Like, would things have been different? And in truth, no. I mean, sure, maybe here or there, little changes, but like the outcome was going to be the outcome. And we were all able to be there, you know, and say our goodbyes. And I was there when he passed, and it was really beautiful. And, you know, he did it as much on his own terms as he could. But COVID, you know, it isolated all of us, and it kind of made it harder to grieve in a sense, because you couldn't like be with people, but then it gave you space to grieve. And like, especially for me, like working in the entertainment industry, like that was very much shut down at the beginning of COVID. And so it gives you all this time, but then at the same time, I didn't have the distraction of work. So that's hard. But then I also didn't have the stress of like hustling and like, oh, I have to do these auditions, or like, am I going to get this job or whatever? And it just sort of like gave me this space that I think that I really needed. I can be really busy. Like, I'm really good at filling my time and seeing people and doing things and hustling and whatever. And that's great. But then it doesn't always allow you to like slow down and process. And I was able to kind of like give myself a little more grace, I think, because I just had this time where I could deal with it. Kind of. I mean, I didn't want him to die. You know what I mean? It's like we're doing everything so it wouldn't happen. But then when I think about the timing of it all, like it did play out in a really interesting way. And part of me is like, was that part of the divine timing of it all? I don't know, you know, but it certainly gave like the space to grieve. And I was able to like just slow down, you know, and get outside a lot. Like I did a lot of walks. I think we all took a lot of walks during COVID. But just like, yeah, just slowing down and processing. I did a road trip up the coast of California, and that was like really healing for me to just get out into nature and hike. And I'd never done a solo trip like that. And it was really, I took Jason's ashes with me and scattered them places. And, you know, I was able to do that because there was time, you know, and I don't know if during like a regular season of life, I would have given myself that. I hope that I could have given myself that, because it was very healing. But my therapist. So I did finally start seeing a therapist, like I said, in February of 2020. And it was really nice to have that relationship established before Jason passed, because then she really knew me and knew us, and she had gone through her own cancer journey. So I felt like, and at the same hospital. So I felt very connected, and like she really got it on a different level. And so just having that like weekly check-in and that person and to like help me process all of the feelings that come with it, that was super helpful. I'm a dancer, and so like movement and expression like are really important for me. And even though dance studios weren't open, there were certain teachers doing like Zoom classes, and there's a few teachers that like really like did a great job like facilitating a class via Zoom. And so just to be able to like move my body and express, and like we hold so much in our bodies, you know, and like not everyone's a dancer, not everyone's going to go take a dance class, but I do think that movement is so important, you know, however that manifests like for you. Although I would recommend everyone just like getting up and like ecstatic dancing, moving your body around, like put on a song that you like and just like turn off the lights and do whatever happens. Mm-hmm. The acceptance was really hard. Like he passed on a Monday and like I wasn't even able to like post anything on social media until Thursday. And I know that's like, I don't know, it sounds like superficial talking about Instagram or whatever, but like to me that was like saying it happened, like made it real even though it was already real. And it was hard. Like, you know, this is the person that has been with you for so long. And my sister stayed with me that night. And I remember waking up the next morning and I like heard her open my bedroom door, and like for a split second, like I thought it was going to be him. And then thank God it was someone else that I love. But you know, it's like, it's so hard to wrap your brain around someone not being there. And I was there when it happened. And you know, everyone has different beliefs about like what happens to us when we die or whatever, but I'm still figuring out what mine are. But there is definitely something to be said about the soul, because the body looks different when the soul is not in it anymore. You know, it's just like, you can just tell without even, you know, but it's like, I knew he was gone, but you're adjusting all of your normal things to like that person not being there. And it's really weird and it's hard. And I did a lot of crying. And yeah, but I have amazing people in my life as well. And I feel like just the people that reached out, or, you know, me being able to reach out to other people. And even though we weren't able to like all be physically together, just having that like connection was really important for me. Yes, I do. I have 4 sisters, all girls. Mm-hmm. 2 sets of parents. Yeah. Siblings on both sides. I mean, I had so much support, and like, I hope that I was also able to like offer other people support as well. Cause I wasn't you guys lost Jason too. Like I'm not the only one that lost him, you know, his whole family lost him too, his friends. And I feel really lucky that like I still get to be a part of his families and of his friends. And, you know, not everybody gets that. And I feel really lucky to have that. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yes. It brings him back to life, you know? Like, we weren't huge gift givers, but we always gave each other cards. And so like, you know, birthdays, Christmas, anniversaries, all of that kind of stuff, like we would write cards for each other. And it's like, between that and his blog and his Instagram captions, you guys go back on his Instagram. Like, he's such a unicorn. Like they're so random, the pictures that he chooses to post or whatever. And then you read the thing and it's so uniquely him. And I'm so grateful to have like all those pieces of writing, because it like, I can hear him saying the words, you know, and they're just like so specific to him. Like, no one has a voice like that. So it's like, it's really special to have those things and to to have them like, his blog is called smorgasbord.com. Check it out. But like, it's really special to like have a place where other people can still go back. Like I know his sister will, post or, repost parts of his blog here and there. And like, I know other people go to it just to like have a piece of him. And I think that's like such a gift that he gave us. Yeah. Yeah. That it's been 3 years now, and it's crazy to think that that's how long it's been, because it feels like it just happened, but it also feels like a lifetime ago since I've seen him, and we carry our grief with us. It doesn't go away. Like it just becomes part of your life. There's an Instagram that I follow, Dr. Julie Smith, maybe that's her last name, but she has like some really good like visual examples of grief. And like one of them is like a black circle, right? And that's your grief. And it doesn't go away, but as you continue to live your life, you start painting some color around there, And so like, as it zooms out, you have all these rings of color around this like black circle. And that feels very like real to me, where it's like you still have it with you, but like as you experience more life, you find joy, and life does go on, and that's beautiful and heartbreaking. And like, sometimes I feel guilty about, the fact that I'm still here, or I'm finding joy in different ways, or I'm doing something that Jason and I would do, without him or with other people or whatever. And it can be hard, but it's also, that doesn't take away any of our memories and our experiences. And I know that he would want me to keep living my life and finding, joy and happiness and all of that. But it's kind of like mental gymnastics sometimes of like, I can be sad that he is not here. And I can also be, happy that I can go do this thing that I wouldn't have been able to do if he was here. And like, at first I felt a lot of guilt about that. When I did that road trip and I'm doing these crazy hikes and stuff, I'm like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And then I'm like, well, I could never have done this with Jason, but it's also like, but now I do get to do this, and he would want me to do this and experience all the things. So I've just been trying to not be hard on myself or judgmental of myself or of my emotions, or when I feel really sad about something or when I don't, because I think you're going to feel all the things, and the more we can kind of like get rid of our own self-judgment, the better. Hmm.
Volunteering and you're doing
Absolutely. Absolutely. I lost my mom unexpectedly in January of 2022. 2022. Oh my God. It was like a freak accident. I got a call in the middle of the night that my mom was dead, and it like so unexpected. And the next morning I'm on a flight back to Minneapolis, and I was sitting in the airport, and I remember calling Jason's parents actually, cause I wanted to tell them over the phone. And I'm sitting there in the airport crying, talking to them on the phone, and just looking around at all these people traveling. And like, we go to the airport so often for a vacation or a work trip or whatever, and you forget all of the reasons people travel, and you just look around there, and it's like, nobody knows why I'm getting on a flight right now. And I think if we can take that perspective with us out into our lives in general, that would be a good thing, because it does give us more grace for other people, because we don't know the baggage people are carrying with them. And someone can look like the most perfectly put together, joyful person, and they have, this darkness or something happen, or we don't know. And so I think giving us a chance to have empathy for other people and to not like assume certain things about people is really helpful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, water just like why? I mean, this is so unfair. Like these are my two people. Like your
Yeah.
spouse.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? Like, how do you not feel so?
I don't know. I don't. I mean, I don't know because I had such a gift with Jason. Like I feel like the love that we have is it's special and not everybody gets that. And I feel so lucky to have had that. And if this is the way that our story played out, so be it, because I would never want to not have that, you know? And then with my mom, I just feel so grateful to like, I had a really strong relationship with her. Like, sure, we had our moments of, you know, tension or whatever, as every daughter has with their mother. But overall, I feel so lucky to have had like a really good relationship with my mom where when something happens out of the blue, I'm not sitting here being like, why didn't I do this or that? Like I did go back because like the last conversation I had with her on the phone, I was crabby and I was like short with her. But I do remember being like, I'm sorry, I'm crabby. I don't really want to talk right now. And so of course the first part of me is like, God damn it, Julie. Like why, like you couldn't have just like pulled up and like, you know, whatever. Or why didn't you call her since then or whatever. But overall, like I had a really good relationship with my mom where I'm like, I know she loved me. She knows I loved her. Like this happened. I can't take it back, but like, I'm so glad that like I was just home for Christmas, you know, and like had this time with her. They're both shitty situations. Like I don't want anyone else to have to go through them. But at the same time, like they've really highlighted like beauty in my life, you know, and like areas of my life that I can have gratitude for and think about like, okay, so I still have my dad right now, right? And like, how can I maximize the time with him and how can I not take that for granted? Like, sure, he's like healthy and vibrant, but like, you know, he's getting older too. And so I want to maximize time. Right. I mean, I'd like a little break. That'd be cool. But I don't know. Life is life. Like shit happens in life. I don't know. I mean, I'm not special. Like bad things are going to happen to me. Bad things are going to happen to other people. Like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Always gonna be part of this. I mean, I'm good.
Oh, you're part of the family. Oh. Thank you. You guys are the best. Sometimes, honestly, I just have to sit in it, which sucks. You know, like nobody wants to like feel icky or sad or whatever. But I feel like I've hit some very low points where and I've been able to come out of them. So it's given me this perspective of like, okay, when I get in this ick, like I know it's not permanent. I don't want to be in it. And I try to just like allow myself to feel whatever I'm feeling. And then I try to do something else. Like go for a walk, go get a coffee, like go just do something else. And it helps me to just kind of like shake it off for a moment. And sometimes I come back home and I'm crying on the kitchen floor again. But at least for however long, I took a little field trip. I changed my environment. Like I just tried to like do something else. And reaching out to other people helps me too. Like I'm a very social person. And so for me, that works. And I have people that I feel really safe talking to where I can be vulnerable and I don't have to like put on a happy face or whatever. I can just, I can cry and I can say the things I want to say and not be judged. But it's been important for me to find the balance between like working through it on my own and then going for my security blanket. And I found that like, for me, it's helpful to like allow myself to feel it, maybe journal or like write out my feelings or do whatever, scream into a pillow. Like I've done all the things, but it's helpful for me to just like make a choice to do something, an activity, like do something else. That, I don't know, that helps. Hey, one shout out to COVID, like going for a walk with like a hat and a mask on, you are incognito. So like no one knows when you're crying. You can still do that, folks. Or just cry in public because, hey, it's okay to cry. That was like a little quote that Jason would always say because I cry a lot. And there's like this children's song and he remembered it from like his childhood. And it's like, it's all right to cry. Like crying takes the sadness out of you. It's all right to cry. It might make you feel better. It's just like, yeah, it's okay, people. Yeah. I cry when I'm happy too, though. I'm like watching a show and it's like a happy scene. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I'm like, does that like exfoliate my face? Like, yeah. 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 Yes. Yeah. I mean, I touched on it earlier and like, I think movement is so helpful. So like whether that means taking a walk or dancing or doing a workout class or just doing like some kind of like physical movement, for me, it just like, it gets stuff out. Like it just like energy gets stuck in our bodies and it just like helps you release something. So I think that for me has been really important. Connecting with other people, like whether it's like a friend or a family member, someone you trust, or it's through a support group, or, even some people are more like introverts, like listening to a podcast or something where you feel like you're being seen and connected. Like for me, like finding connection with others has been incredibly helpful to just not feel alone. Like I said before, like I'm not the only one that lost Jason. Like so many people lost him. Like I lost him in my daily life, but like other people, his parents raised him. Like they've been there since he was a little baby. Like you guys have known him. Well, you, Brooke, have known him longer than I have. But so, just reaching out to those people and like sharing stories and like staying connected with like Jason's spirit, like that really helps me like make, just bring him back to life. And I think my third thing is just like finding gratitude, even just in the little things. And it doesn't mean like toxic positivity or anything like that, because that's real, but also like find a good thing that came out of something, or like go for a walk and admire that flower on the side of the road, or like go, get a good coffee and a pastry, or, like some little thing that can bring you joy and that you can like be grateful for, or a memory of a person, or, like I wouldn't wish like Jason's diagnosis on anyone, but like it made us very aware of the time we had together. And like it made me clock little moments with him, like we used to drive down the 405 to get to and from our brain tumor support group. And there, when you like go over the hill and you get into the valley from the 405 at night, like it's kind of beautiful, like just all the lights that, and I just like, I have these memories of like grabbing his hand, and just like holding his hand as we're like going over the hill with all the lights. And like, it's such a simple, mundane moment, but like, I'm so grateful for that. And I'm grateful that I clocked that while it was happening, because I knew that like, how many times am I going to get this? And there's going to be a moment where I'm not going to get this. So I'm going to sit here and hold his hand and just like appreciate that. So clock the little moments. Me too. I get so happy seeing you guys. Grateful Jason has awesome family. Like, he could have sucky family. He has great family. Yes. Okay. I have to be. Okay. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Uh, mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like he shows up in my head in so many moments, where like I'll be doing something and I can like hear what he would say to react to that. Or, there's been like little things like this stone that it's like like a crystal or whatever. And he kept it with him like throughout the hospital. And then I kept it with me after he passed. And I had it like on my nightstand or whatever. And it was the 4th of July, like right after he'd passed. And I woke up and it was the first night I had like slept through the night. And I just like woke up and the sun was coming through my bedroom and I like rolled over and that little stone was just like sitting right next to me. And I don't know, I could have grabbed it in my sleep. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how it got there, but either way, it just felt like I like rolled over. I had this like really restful night. Like the sun was coming in. It was a beautiful day. We always loved 4th of July. And like, it was like, hey, so there's just been like little things like that. Like last summer when I was in town for Jason's brother's wedding, I was driving into Madison to meet a couple friends for dinner and I stopped and I had been thinking of Jason and the car in front of me's license plate said Jason. And I was like, okay. Hey babe. I think I had been like talking to him out loud, like in the car or something. Cause I'll do that sometimes, just being like, I really wish you could be here for Zach's wedding. And then it was just like license plate, Jason. Yeah. So there's been some fun little things like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was like so important for me to be able to do. And my good friend, Casey Money, he was in the scholarship program with me. So he knew Jason like from before Jason was sick, And so he was the one that was like, I don't know how it came up, but we were talking and I was like, I really want to make some kind of thing. He's like, yes. And he's a brilliant dancer, choreographer, director. And so we were talking, we're like, let's collaborate on something. And we were throwing some ideas out. And then he has a friend who's a musician and her name is Stephanie. And she has this song and he heard this song of hers and he was like, oh my God, this is the song. And like came to me with like this treatment of like, I heard my friend's song and this just like all happened and we talked about it. It was like, oh my God. And this was, mind you, during COVID. So like, we're still being very safe. Like I'm not, I'm living in my little apartment bubble by myself. And we both had just come off of doing jobs where we were like tested for COVID. And so we're like, okay, so we know we're good. And so he came over and we mapped out the movement together in one day and he plays Jason, and he took it so seriously. Like, you know, he would be like, Jay would kind of like hold his head like this, right? Or like, you know, he just like, it was really, really sweet, though, you know, the care that he took in like portraying this person that, you know, I loved so much and he admired so much. So yeah, we like worked through the movement together in one day. And then our friend Fred Diaz, who was also on scholarship with us, who was my roommate, Fred and I shared a room, like in that apartment of like 6 people in a 3-bedroom. Fred and I originally shared a room, and then he switched rooms like when Jason came in for the summer or whatever. So again, has known Jason forever, loved Jason. So he came in and shot it for us. And it was just really special to be able to create something to honor Jason, to express, you know, the feelings of loss, but also the feelings of like warmth that you have when you remember those moments with that person. And to be able to do it with 2 people who love Jason and knew him and, you know, are so close with me was really special and like made me feel really safe. It was also like the first time I'd like really like touched other people in a long time, because again, we're like living in the COVID world, you know, and like, yeah, maybe you've given someone a hug or something, but you're not like cuddling up with your friends or anything. And so like dancing with Casey in those ways, it was just like feeling human touch again. But it was just, it was really beautiful to make. And then it sort of like gave me this like closure of that apartment for us. Cause Jason and I moved into that apartment. It was the only place we lived in together in LA. We were there for like a decade. We never intended on staying there that long. It just like, we couldn't leave, you know? And so it like weirdly gave this like, you know, wrap up of that space in that chapter, and gave me sort of like helped me feel permission to like move forward, you know, into a different space. So it was really healing for me. It was really beautiful. And the response that I've gotten since, like when I released it originally, it was overwhelming. And then it screened in a film festival in New York in May. And like, you know, just again, like people's response to it was like so beautiful. So to be able to like create something out of a terrible situation, but like create a piece of art that can, you know, help other people, you know, experience something or feel something, or, you know, 'cause it was, you know, as an artist, it's like, you're always, or I'll speak for myself. Like I'm judgmental of my own work, you know, I'm critical, and like, I'm a dancer. So I like grew up in front of a mirror and like always assessing things or whatever. And so, you know, it was like, it was so personal. And so then you want it to be so perfect and this and that, whatever. But it was really nice to like partner with Casey, because he edited it, and, you know, and he was really helpful in like making those decisions, because I can just be my worst critic, you know? And so it was hard in some senses, but like in some, it was like, it was really nice to be able to like, I don't know, see Jason depicted in that way. And then we put in like little footage from our wedding, like at the very end in the credits. And that like, he's so beautiful. Like it just makes me happy to see him. So like it's, you know, again, it's like those moments where he's like brought back into the present and back to life. And like, you see him and his vibrancy and all of that. And I don't know, it's been a really great experience for me. Hmm. Hmm. It's a whole other thing. Yeah. Thank you.
But also, like you said, like just
Yeah. 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 I like keeping him alive. Thanks. Hmm. I think I would tell her, like, you are enough. I think, you know, we can be like so critical of ourselves, or, you know, yeah, I think I would tell her like, you are enough, and like, just go for it. Just be you. I mean, I don't think that I wasn't like, I don't think I was not me or whatever, but I think a lot of times I like waited for permission to do certain things, or like waited to be told like, oh, you're good at that or whatever. And I think it would be nice to just tell her like, you're going to be okay. Like, you got this. Like, just keep being sunshine, and you're going to be fine. You know, like everything's going to be okay.
You are so like silly and like funny and like such a badass. Like how you actually care about the planet. You are a unicorn, and I'm just so grateful that I'm so with
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe we just need to like throw a party or like go out. Right. Well, I am going to pull one from Jason. And he would always say, I'm not sure of anything. Like, I would question, you know, I'd be like, well, are you sure? And he'd be like, I'm not sure of anything. And it would drive me nuts sometimes. Like, we even got in an argument one time because I was trying to test him and be like, well, are you sure that you will love me forever? Because we took a vow or whatever. And he was like, well, I'm not sure of anything. Like, I think that I will. And I was getting so mad at him. But something that I love about that quote, A, is just like so Jason. If anybody that knows him, you know, it's just like, okay, Jason, you know. But B, I think it allows space for possibility. And I think that that is so important. You know, I think we have an idea of how we think our life is going to go, or a certain thing or whatever, and we're so sure of it. But like, if we can just allow ourselves to just not be sure of anything, it like opens up all these different doors to different opportunities that like maybe we never would have even thought of. And I think just in terms of like him and his like fight through his cancer journey, like he could have taken what happened to him and be like, well, this is what typically, you know, this, I'm pretty sure this is going to be but to just be like, I'm not sure of anything. So why not? Like, why couldn't this happen? So I'm going to end with, I'm not sure of anything, and just allow for possibility.